Hi, I'm Amanda, the host of Clothes Horse Podcast. And if this is the first time you're meeting me, I have worked as a buyer in the fast fashion industry for close to 20 years at this point. And I have worked for a lot of really big fast fashion brands, including some sister brands of the brand I'm going to talk about today, Anthropologie. So last night, Anthropologie sent out this really ill advised email with the subject line, less itchy than vintage. And it says, because vintage is itchy. The irony is not lost on me that the majority of the Anthropologie business since basically forever has been to copy vintage styles, vintage aesthetic into brand new stuff. And here they are completely insulting vintage. That's a whole thing in itself. And also the gall of a fast fashion brand, because yes, Anthropologie is fast fashion. We'll go into that in a minute. The gall of a fast fashion brand to try to talk its customers out of buying secondhand and vintage clothing is beyond for me, knowing that currently, without making any more new clothes ever again, there is enough clothing on the planet right now to clothe the next 6 generations of humans. And here's Anthropologie, a fast fashion brand, telling you you shouldn't buy secondhand. So, yes, my friends, Anthropologie is fast fashion. And I've kind of put off making a video about this because every time I talk about Anthropologie being fast fashion, a lot of people really freak out. But the reality is that Anthropologie is fast fashion. It is owned by URBN, who also owns Urban Outfitters, Free People, and Nuuly. All of the clothes are made using the same production team in the same factory, often with the same fabrications and definitely with the same business model. This is a handy checklist that I think is always really useful when identifying whether or not a brand is fast fashion. And when we think about Anthropologie right here, does the brand launch new items every week, every day? Check. Does the store or website have hundreds or thousands of items for sale? Well, I'll tell you, they have 7 pages of sweaters alone, so check. Do things seem to go on sale pretty fast? They sure do, and I'm going to show you some examples. Does the brand have a dazzling array of deals, deals, deals? Check. And does the brand copy steal designs from designers and artists? Yes. So here we checked all the boxes, and you only need to check more than one box on this list to be fast fashion. So yes, Anthropologie is fast fashion. And lately, they have been sending out a lot of emails with a lot of deals. In early November, I received this email saying that they were taking an extra 40% off thousands of new sale styles. So things would be marked down to a lower price, and then an additional discount of 40% off would be taken on that. Then it was Black Friday for like 100 years, and the entire website was 30% off, including sale items. Black Friday, which, like I said, seemed to go on for 100 years, now it was an extra 50% off sale items. And I'm not showing you this to shame Anthropologie for selling stuff on sale or you for buying things on sale. I'm showing you this to prove a point about how sweaters are made in the fast fashion era and why they probably are not as good as vintage despite Anthropologie's claims otherwise. A few weeks ago, I released an episode of the podcast, episode 183 to be precise. And this episode was about sweaters. And I put it together with my friend Danny of Picnic Wear, who has been a sweater designer in the fast fashion industry. And in it, we talked about how sweaters are much lower quality now in the fast fashion era than they've ever been, and why. And specifically, it's because in the fast fashion era, sweaters are designed to sell on sale, meaning the price on a sweater might say $148 on the website, but the buyers and designers and production people who worked on that sweater planned that all along that sweater would sell at half price or even lower, maybe even 60 to 75% off, and still be profitable for the company. So while you might think you're buying a $148 sweater, what you're really buying is probably a $50 or $60 sweater that is still highly profitable for the retailer. Now, designers, production people, buyers, they're not sitting around thinking like, oh, let's come up with the crappiest sweater we can, let's rip off our customers. But what they are doing is executing to the margin goals and sales goals and profitability goals that executives are giving them and making product that checks all of those boxes, which often means cutting a lot of corners. And I wanted to show you some sweaters from the Anthropologie website that are really clear, in my experience as a buyer, very clear examples of these corners being cut. First off is sweaters that have this like really open knit that's like kind of see-through, maybe even a little bit holey. These sweaters are a lot cheaper to make because there's a lot less yarn and they weigh less. Now, every sweater I'm going to show you is synthetic. It's a blend of often polyester, nylon, wool, maybe some cotton, maybe no wool at all. And these blends are also a lot less expensive than natural fibers because they are lighter and they're cheaper in the first place. So that's another way that sweaters are engineered to be a low price. But back to this open knit idea, you can already see this sweater's full price was $178. It's currently marked down to $109.95. And that means during that 50% off sale for Black Friday, it sold for about $50. And most likely it was planned to be a profitable sweater at $50. Interestingly enough, despite Anthro saying, hey, our sweaters aren't itchy like vintage, this sweater is scratchy. Uncomfortably scratchy on my skin. Let's just read this one too. So itchy. I had to throw this one in. Another trick you'll see is cropping sweaters, making them just a little bit shorter. And I read the reviews on so many Anthropologie styles today that all called out that this is just a little too short. Here's a great example. Here's another great example. It didn't exactly look that short to me in this photo, but there were other photos where it looked really short and the reviews called that out. So cropping a sweater makes it a lot more profitable at a lower retail price. Here's another example of this like open knit where there's like a lot of spaces in between holes. This also saves money on yarn while still giving you an oversized sweater at a good profit. This one, which is on sale for $79.95, which means it would have been about $40 on Black Friday, is so see-through, so open knit. It really does look like a fishnet, right? Not surprised to read this one. Looks cheap. Yeah, because it was designed to be cheap. This sweater does all the things I just said. It makes it shorter. It kind of looks like it maybe even has 3/4 sleeves, which is another check for savings. It's super open knit. It's synthetic. And right now it's priced at $109.95, so it's a little bit more than $50 on Black Friday. I'm sure it's going to go even lower after Christmas. Cute but itchy. I thought Anthro said that their sweaters weren't itchy. Maybe I read that email wrong. I did read that email right. The last thing I'll just say here is the price point of a sweater almost never, at least in the fast fashion era, defines whether a sweater is high quality or not. At this point, the price on the tag or on the website is really more of a marketing moment, a branding moment, than it as an actual indicator of value. If you're looking for a sweater right now, the best sweater for you, regardless of the aesthetic, the size, the color, the use, is probably going to be secondhand or made by you or made by a maker. It's probably not going to come from Anthropologie or any other fast fashion brand. And that's because they have cut so many corners and cut out so much quality in order to create the illusion of a deal for you and their customers. If you're looking for a really great secondhand sweater, I recommend looking for things that were made before 2010, before the fast fashion business model of creating this illusion of a deal really kicked into full swing. You're going to find better made sweaters regardless of the fibers. You're going to find a lot more natural fibers or blends that are designed to last for a lot longer. You're probably going to find that the sweaters have a better length, are less open, and just generally have more longevity in your life. The one last thing I want to throw in here while we're talking about Anthropologie, I have to tell you about this. Anthropologie, along with all the other URBN brands, Free People and Urban Outfitters and Nuuly, refused to pay up for orders that it canceled at the beginning of the pandemic. And many other brands like Uniqlo, Gap, Old Navy, so many other brands actually did pay for those after we as a slow fashion community put pressure on them. The URBN brands were sort of like, we don't care, we're not going to listen. What happened when all of those orders were canceled is that all the people who make our clothes, including Anthropologie's allegedly non-itchy sweaters, they didn't get paid, right? They lost their homes, their access to food and medicine and school and so many other things. I think that's one more thing to think about when you think about where you're going to spend your money or who's receiving your money, is that here is a brand that has never prioritized the planet and its people ever.